Trump video is not the only political controversy today. There are not one but two Clinton email scandal revelations out today. Fox News correspondent Jennifer Griffin is in Clinton's hometown of Chappaqua, New York. Jennifer?
Well, Britt, on the one hand, the Clinton campaign may be gloating over that Trump audio tape, but they are also very concerned and have had some bad news today in terms of Clinton's own emails. Just a few moments ago, I caught up with President Bill Clinton, who was out on his evening walk here in Chappaqua, and I asked him about the revelations this afternoon that the intelligence community now believes Russia is behind the hack into U.S. political parties' emails. He told me he had known it all along. He did not respond to accusations from Trump that he had said worse things in the past. The State Department, meanwhile, responding to a court order, released a new batch of Hillary Clinton's emails from when she was Secretary of State, including one from Clinton's former campaign strategist, Mark Penn, suggesting she should find a way to push Vice President Joe Biden off the ticket in 2012. Quote, one way for President Barack Obama to win second term is to ask you to be VP. He will realize that after midterms. Separately, emails obtained by the RNC through the Freedom of Information Act appear to show that White House officials were actively coordinating with the State Department at the start of Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign in 2015 to control the fallout from Clinton's use of a homebrew server. In one email exchange, Clinton's current communications director, Jennifer Palmieri, who was serving in the White House at the time, reached out to the State Department's public affairs director, Jen Psaki, to request that she shield Secretary of State John Kerry from news media questions about Clinton's server. In one email, Palmieri asked Psaki, quote, think we can get this done so he is not asked about email? To which Psaki replies, quote, agree completely and working to crush on my end. A day later, Psaki adds via email, good to go on killing CBS idea. A senior administration official says the email exchange referred to their desire to prevent Secretary Kerry from doing any Sunday show interviews at a time when the Iran nuclear talks were at a sensitive time. Kerry ended up being interviewed by a CBS reporter on a trip to Cairo. The interview appeared on the CBS Sunday morning show. Kerry was not asked about Clinton's server. A CBS spokesman said that none of the questions were agreed to in advance and that all questions were on the table. But in terms of the WikiLeaks release tonight of 50,000 of John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's campaign chair's emails, there are many emails in there that will prove very embarrassing to the Clinton campaign. Britt?
Yeah, some nights you just can't get through all of it, right, Jennifer?
We're wading through them, Britt, but there are a lot of them.
Well, keep us posted, won't you?
Yes.
And tonight it also appears that WikiLeaks has released transcripts of Hillary Clinton's paid speeches. You remember all the fuss about those? BuzzFeed News published lengthy excerpts this afternoon. Here are a few samples from different speeches to Wall Street and other moneyed groups. Quote, here's Hillary Clinton's remarks at a Goldman BlackRock quoting here, quote, we had a solid middle-class upbringing, so I lived that. And now, obviously, I'm kind of far removed because the life I've lived and, you know, the economic fortunes that my husband and I now enjoy. But I haven't forgotten. Here's Clinton's speech for National Multi-Housing Council. Quote, but if everybody's watching you know, all the backroom discussions and the deals, you know, then people get a little nervous, to say the least. So you need both a public and a private position. And here are Hillary Clinton's comments to Banco Itaú, a former Brazilian bank. Quote, my dream is a hemispheric common market with open trade and open borders. Sometime in the future with energy that is as green and sustainable as we can get it, powering growth and opportunity for every person in the hemisphere. And here is Clinton's speech to Goldman Sachs Builders and Innovators Summit. Quote, but you know, part of the problem with the political situation, too, is that there is such a bias against people who have led successful and or complicated lives. You know, the divestment of assets, the stripping of all kinds of positions, the sale of stocks. It just becomes very onerous and unnecessary. Our nightly political panel is back. Byron York of the Washington Examiner, Heidi Prisbello of USA Today. Well, the Hillary Clinton we've seen lately is not the Hillary Clinton speaking so sympathetically about executives who have had involved in divestment and the rest of it, nor is she the person who will tell you that she has public and private positions. What do you think, Heidi?
Well, I think we're going to have to create a classification system for these here, going through all of this. And I'm going to say that there's part of it that is minorly damaging and part of it that's majorly damaging.
Which is which?
The minorly damaging is shocking. Politicians talk different in private than they do in public, and that she would try to ingratiate herself and show a sympathetic side to these Wall Street bankers who are paying her to speak to them. That's minorly damaging. The majorly damaging part is the part where they talk about trying to fit their policy to her rhetoric and the part about open borders and trade, because this is the exact opposite of the position that she has presented to all of us ever since Bernie Sanders essentially pushed her to the left on this. And he knew, as did a lot of his supporters, and it's the reason why they're still skeptical of her today, that in her heart she's a free trader. It's the same thing with
and an open borders person.
Same thing with calling the TPP the gold standard. And when you look at the fact that Donald Trump has propelled to where he is in this race based on this trade argument and based on the immigration argument, that's hugely important and a problem for her. And just like he's going to have to answer in the debate for his hot mic, this is going to be something that she's going to be dancing around on in the debate as well.
I disagree a little bit on the public and private, because I think that will come back over and over and over again, simply because any other candidate could say, well, Secretary Clinton, is that just your public position, or do you really believe that? I mean, you can use that for anything that she says, but the truly radioactive one is the open borders, when she says, my dream is a hemispheric common market with open trade and open borders. Now, this is what Donald Trump, it's what Mike Pence have been saying over and over and over about Hillary Clinton. She wants open borders, and Democrats always deny that. Absolutely. Look, we're calling for tough security on the borders. I mean, they're going to throw this at her every single day.
So I guess we have to balance out. There's bad news, it seems to me, today for both candidates, and revelations. Of course, Jennifer Griffin is still, along with others, I'm sure, trying to plow through the emails that get released. Why is it always on a Friday afternoon? I just wonder about that. So, tote up the damage, sort of take an early crack at toting up the damage from each of these to what we learned about Hillary today and what we learned about Trump.
I think they both actually fit into pre-established themes about them, because obviously the whole Alicia Machado stuff from the first debate, and now this new surreptitious audio from earlier. I think this is something that Hillary Clinton will just continue to fit in to this pattern. And as far as Hillary Clinton is concerned, this idea that she's a different person when she talks to fat cats from Goldman Sachs and other millionaires in New York, I think that's a theme that's already been established. So I think if you believe one, this just makes it more serious.
How do you final thoughts?
Well, depends on how each of them handles it, first of all. But on surface, I think this is going to depress her effort to try and court some of these Bernie Sanders voters who've been skeptical of her all along. It may hurt their efforts with turnout. And for Donald Trump, I think those suburban swing women they're going to be locked in.
So who's more hurt today by the revelations? I mean, this is kind of an unfair question, I realize, but take a crack at it.
Well, given where the polls are today, if we consider it, even if we just considered it a draw,
right,
he'd be more hurt, because he's got to do more to turn the numbers around.
He needs to gain ground. She needs to hold ground.
Right.
Got it. Well, thanks to both of you. Appreciate it. And some more brand new poll numbers are next. We'll take a look at one of the most important parts of the electorate, independence. And Hurricane Matthew has weakened slightly, but millions of Americans are still in its path, and we will keep you updated throughout the show.
Welcome back to Fox and Friends First. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton are gearing up for their second face-off tomorrow in St. Louis. But first, Trump has to contend with the leaked audio from 2005, the video recording of him making lewd comments toward women. If you haven't seen that yet, you will see it today. So how should Trump respond to this bombshell during Sunday's debate and get the focus back on the election? Scott Jennings is a Republican strategist and a veteran of 4 presidential campaigns. He's prepped candidates for the debate stage in the past. Scott, thanks for joining us this morning. You anticipate preparing for a debate. You don't anticipate a video like this dropping just a day before that debate. How is that going to change the way Donald Trump prepares?
Well, there's 2 issues really here. I think a decision has to be made about whether to put Donald Trump out there in a speech format before the debate. I would advise them to do it. I think he needs to try to deal with this in a live speech, not a video. Number 2, he was already going to have to deal with some controversies at the debate. The Machado dispute that he's had with Miss Universe, the New York Times story over his taxes. those things were already going to dominate some portion of the debate. Now we throw the the new leaked audio from the Washington Post on top of that. So I think a speech over the weekend would try to help clear the decks a little bit, but clearly in the prep now, the number one term they're talking about is humility. He has to show some humility for these things, and sloughing them off as being, well, it's 10 years old, or this isn't a germane issue. It's not going to cut it. So I think prep's now turning on humility and whether to clear the decks ahead of time.
So is this, do you feel like inherently then Donald Trump's going to have to be on the defensive, or is there a way he can control the flow of this debate?
Well, that is a great point. He does need to try to get the debate off of him and on to Hillary Clinton, and specifically on the economy. The one area in the Fox poll and other polls that have come out where he's still, I think, maybe more trusted than Hillary is on the economy and jobs and on the issue of free trade. And so if he can try to steer the debate back to those grounds, that's going to be a successful night. During the first debate, when he was on trade and jobs, he was beating Hillary Clinton. The trouble is now, though, in a 90-minute debate, you're looking at having to deal with 3 major controversies. And so getting out of St. Louis with a win means spending more time on the economy and jobs and less time on your own controversies and explaining them. And that's getting harder now because of what happened on Friday night. That's why I would strongly consider something ahead of time to try to reduce the amount of time you're dealing with that at the debate and increase the amount of time you're dealing with issues that matter to people's lives.
And you've also mentioned that, you know, a 90-minute debate is oftentimes distilled down to a few seconds or a few moments. What do you think would be a few moments? What would be the opportunity or a moment for Donald Trump to find that?
Well, given what happened last night, he's got to find a very human, humble moment to be apologetic about what came out on Friday night. I don't really think the video that was issued is going to cut it. I think he needs to show some real contrition that's not being read off of a teleprompter. He needs to have a real moment where he acknowledges his failures and shortcomings and tries to explain why he's still fit to be the President of the United States. Ultimately, it's finding a presidential moment. You know, he needs to show people that I'm human, people do make mistakes, and here's how I'm willing to own up to it. Not reading something off a piece of paper, but doing it straight from the heart.
I've never said I'm a perfect person, nor pretended to be someone that I'm not. I've said and done things I regret, and the words released today on this more than a decade-old video are one of them. Anyone who knows me knows these words don't reflect who I am. I said it, I was wrong, and I apologize. I've traveled the country talking about change for America, but my travels have also changed me. I've spent time with grieving mothers who've lost their children, laid-off workers whose jobs have gone to other countries, and people from all walks of life who just want a better future. I have gotten to know the great people of our country, and I've been humbled by the faith they've placed in me. I pledge to be a better man tomorrow and will never, ever let you down. Let's be honest, we're living in the real world. This is nothing more than a distraction from the important issues we're facing today. We're losing our jobs, we're less safe than we were 8 years ago, and Washington is totally broken. Hillary Clinton and her kind have run our country into the ground. I've said some foolish things, but there's a big difference between the words and actions of other people. Bill Clinton has actually abused women, and Hillary has bullied, attacked, shamed, and intimidated his victims. We will discuss this more in the coming days. See you at the debate on Sunday.